Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Bypath, and today we've got a story that's going to send chills down your spine. So let's dive right in. On January 18th, 2008, in a quiet Canadian neighborhood, a homeless man was out collecting bottles to sell. He was going through a trash bin when he came across something that would haunt anyone. What he found was a severed human right arm, wrapped inside a garbage bag. Completely shocked, he didn't know what to do. So he started knocking on doors telling people, "You have to see what I found." One of the neighbors, curious and probably thinking it was some kind of joke, decided to check it out. What they saw left them horrified. They immediately called the police and explained everything. At first, the police thought it might be a prank, but when they arrived and opened the bag, they were stunned. It was a real human arm. The investigators then began searching nearby dumpsters, hoping to find the rest of the body. What they discovered was even more disturbing: the left arm and some severed fingers. Everything was quickly sent to the forensic lab. There was a fear that these arms might belong to multiple victims, hinting at a possible serial killer. But after a thorough examination, they were relieved to find that the arms belonged to the same person. Identifying the victim through tattoos was tough, but fingerprint analysis eventually gave them a name: Chad Larkey, a 22-year-old man. The investigators gathered every piece of evidence they could from the arms: fibers, hair, anything that might help. They then had the difficult task of visiting Chad's mother to break the tragic news. She was absolutely devastated, insisting that her son was a good person with no enemies. The investigators started questioning everyone around Chad, his neighbors, friends, but nobody could think of anyone who would want to harm him. Everyone described him as respectful and well-mannered. So, who could have done this? And why? Let's take a closer look. On the evening of the crime, Chad was at a local bar having a few drinks. The police reviewed the bar's security footage and checked Chad's recent phone calls. That night, Chad had called his father, asking him to pick him up. His father agreed and told him to be ready. But after Chad's death, when the police called his father, his reaction was shocking. He claimed to know nothing about the crime and refused to come in for questioning. The police had to threaten him with arrest to get him to cooperate. His calm reaction only raised more suspicion. I mean, how could a father stay so composed after hearing about his son's death? During the interrogation, Chad's father shared his version of events. He said that after picking Chad up, they were on their way home when Chad mentioned that his best friend, Dean, was waiting for him outside their house. When they arrived, Chad met with Dean, and his father went to the market for groceries. After returning home, he made a phone call and then went back inside. Now, the story Chad's father told might sound suspicious, but the investigators reviewed the security footage, and it backed up his story. After meeting Dean, Chad's father did indeed go to the market and then returned home. But Dean, Chad's best friend, had a criminal record involving drugs and other shady activities. Could he have done something so horrific? Time was running out, so the police decided to ask the public for help. Among the many tips they received, one stood out. A farmer called in, reporting a suspicious fire near his farm. He mentioned strange tools and sharp objects scattered around the site. The police quickly responded and found knives, cooking tools, and footprints in the snow, along with tire tracks. But could any of this lead to a breakthrough? During their search, a detective found a receipt near the fire from a store called 7-Eleven, dated 2 weeks earlier. They reviewed the store's security footage and saw a man buying minutes for a SIM card. That man was none other than Dean, Chad's best friend, the last person seen with Chad. But still, there was no solid proof. After digging deeper into Dean's records, the police found that he had rented a truck shortly before the fire. The tire tracks from that truck matched those at the crime scene. Even more shocking, the burnt truck was found near the farm, deliberately set on fire, but luckily, the front part was still intact. Inside, they found a shoe that matched the footprints in the snow, along with another receipt for gasoline. All this evidence strongly suggested Dean was involved in the fire, but they still couldn't pin him down for Chad's murder. The investigators got a warrant to search Dean's house, but before they could execute it, they issued a citywide alert to find Dean's car. When they finally located it in a remote area, it had been burned, the license plates removed, and it was stripped down to the metal. Why go to such lengths? Could Dean still be hiding something? The police found out Dean had been hiding out at a friend's place. Knowing the police were closing in, Dean did something extreme. He had a severe cut on his hand, and to hide it, he burned his hand on a hot pan. But this desperate move didn't help him. When the police finally searched Dean's home, they were shocked by what they found. The carpets had been removed, the place was a mess, and there were cleaning supplies everywhere. After a thorough search, they found bloodstains on the walls that matched Chad's DNA, along with other damning evidence. At this point, the investigators were convinced that Dean was the killer. They brought him in for questioning, but he remained calm and refused to confess. Chad's mother was heartbroken, pleading with Dean to reveal where her son's body was so she could give him a proper burial. Despite mounting pressure, Dean kept his silence, even during the trial. The case dragged on for years, and in the end, Dean was sentenced to just 10 years in prison. A year into his sentence, Dean finally confessed to killing Chad, but never explained why. To this day, Chad's body has never been found. Dean claimed he disposed of it in different dumpsters around the city, but the truth remains a mystery. So why would someone kill their best friend? Early on, I mentioned that Dean had a history of drug abuse. It's likely that on the day of the crime, he was under the influence and acted out in a moment of madness. Drugs can turn a person from human to monster. As for Chad's father's strange reaction, no one knows why he behaved that way, and there was no evidence linking him to the crime. And that, my friends, is the end of today's story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.